Dr. Minjun Park wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the massive metal structure buried deep in Triton's frozen surface. The archaeological dig had been going on for 3 months. But what they found today changed everything. The structure was huge, bigger than any building on Earth, and it was old, very old. Captain Chen, you need to see this. Minjun called over his radio. His voice shook with excitement and fear. Captain Sarah Chen walked over from the security perimeter, her boots crunching on the ice. She was a practical woman who did not get excited easily. But when she saw the readings on Minjun's scanner, her eyes went wide. "How old did you say this thing is?" she asked. "The dating shows millions of years." "But that's impossible. Humans have only been in space for 400 years. Minjun ran his hand along the smooth metal surface. It was warm to the touch, even in the freezing cold of Triton. Lieutenant Kim Yuki ran up to them, breathing hard. She was young and always eager to help. "Dr. Park, the communication array is picking up something strange. The structure is sending out signals. Round. Professor Elena Vasquez joined them, carrying her tablet full of analysis data. She was the team's expert on ancient technology, but she looked confused and worried. "The metal is not like anything we know," she said. "It's stronger than diamond, but lighter than aluminum. And look at these symbols." She showed them pictures on her tablet. They look like old human writing, but from languages that died out thousands of years ago. Minjun felt his heart race. "Are you saying this is human technology?" "That's what the tests show. But how can that be? Humans were still using stone tools millions of years ago." Captain Chen's radio crackled. Her face went pale as she listened to the message. "Team, we have a problem. Long-range sensors just detected a massive fleet entering our solar system. They're not human ships." The team gathered around as Chen explained what the orbital stations had found. The alien fleet was huge, with ships bigger than Earth's largest cities. They were moving straight toward human space. "Who are they?" Kim asked. "The Zephyrian Empire. We've heard stories about them from other species. They don't like to talk. They prefer to shoot first." Minjun looked back at the ancient structure. Strange lights were beginning to glow along its surface. The symbols Professor Vasquez had found were starting to shine with blue light. "It's reacting to something," he said. "Elena, what do your readings show?" Professor Vasquez checked her instruments. Her face went white. "The energy output is increasing fast. Whatever this thing is, it's waking up." The structure began to hum, a low sound that they could feel in their bones. The ice around it started to melt, revealing more of the massive building buried below. "Captain, we need to evacuate the dig site," Professor Vasquez said. "This energy level could be dangerous." But Minjun could not leave. Something about the structure called to him. He placed his hand on one of the glowing symbols. The moment his skin touched the warm metal, everything changed. Images flashed through his mind. He saw Earth as it was millions of years ago, but not with primitive humans. He saw cities that reached into space and ships that could cross the galaxy in days. He saw humans working with many different alien species, keeping peace between the stars. "Minjun." Captain Chen grabbed his shoulder. "What's happening to you?" He blinked and found himself on the ground. The others were standing over him, worried looks on their faces, but the images were still clear in his mind. "I saw things," he said slowly. "Humans in space. But not now. Long ago. We were already out here, among the stars." Lieutenant Kim's communication equipment started beeping rapidly. "Captain, I'm getting messages from Earth Command. The alien fleet is demanding that all humans leave this solar system immediately. They say we don't belong in space." Captain Chen helped Minjun to his feet. "That's not possible. Humans have been exploring space for centuries." The structure's humming grew louder. More symbols lit up along its surface. Deep underground, they could hear the sound of massive machinery starting to work. "Look at this," Professor Vasquez called out. She was standing by a section of the structure where the ice had completely melted away. There was writing there, carved deep into the metal. "I can read some of this. It's in very old Korean and something that looks like ancient Chinese." Min-jun walked over to read the words. His grandmother had taught him some of the old language when he was young. The words were hard to understand, but he could make out some of them. It says something about guardians, and protection, and a promise to return when humanity needs help. The ground began to shake. Far below them, something enormous was moving. Lights appeared deep in the structure, growing brighter and brighter. "Whatever this thing is," Captain Chen said, "it's been waiting for us. The question is, what does it want to do?" Kim's radio crackled again. "Captain, the alien fleet is getting closer. Earth Command says they have weapons we've never seen before. Our ships can't fight them." Min-jun looked at the growing lights in the structure. He thought about the images he had seen, about humans who had once been great among the stars. Maybe they had left something behind. Maybe they had known this day would come. "I don't think this is just an ancient building," he said. "I think it's a weapon, a very powerful weapon, and I think it's been waiting for humans to return to space so it could protect them." The humming grew so loud they had to cover their ears. The lights were so bright they had to look away. Deep in the structure, something vast and ancient was waking up after millions of years of sleep. Captain Chen made a decision. "Kim, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we may have found something that can help. Elena, Min-jun, keep studying this thing. We need to understand what we're dealing with." The structure gave one final, massive pulse of light and sound. Then, everything went quiet. But the lights stayed on, pulsing gently like a heartbeat, waiting. Something was coming, and humanity's forgotten guardians were ready to wake up. The massive alien ships filled the space around Jupiter like dark clouds blocking the sun. Admiral Vex Tar of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small human colonies with cold eyes. His species had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years by removing threats before they became dangerous. Humans were definitely a threat. "Send the final message," he ordered his communications officer. "All humans must leave this system within 1 day, or we will remove them by force." On Triton, Dr. Min-jun Park worked frantically to understand the ancient structure. The alien deadline was only hours away, and the structure was acting stranger every minute. Symbols appeared and disappeared on its surface. Deep inside, machinery hummed with increasing power. "Dr. Park," Lieutenant Kim called out, "you need to hear this transmission from the alien fleet." The voice that came through the speakers was harsh and cold. "Humans of the Sol system, you have spread too fast and adapt too quickly. Your species represents a danger to galactic stability. You will evacuate immediately or face extinction." Captain Chen clenched her fists. "Extinction? We've never even met these aliens before. What did we do wrong?" Professor Vasquez looked up from her instruments. "The energy readings from the structure are off the charts. Whatever's down there is almost fully awake now." Suddenly, the air above the structure began to shimmer. A blue light formed into the shape of a tall human figure. It was transparent, like a ghost, but its voice was clear and strong. "Guardian Protocol 7 is now active," the figure said. "Threat to human survival detected. Preparing defensive measures." Min-jun stared at the glowing figure. It looked like a human, but its clothes were strange and old-fashioned. "Who are you? What are you?" I am the artificial consciousness left by your ancestors to protect humanity when the time came for your return to the stars." The figure turned to look at each of them. You may call me Guardian. Captain Chen stepped forward. Our ancestors? But humans have only been in space for a few centuries. Guardian smiled sadly. No, Captain Chen. Your people ruled the galaxy long before your current civilization began. We built an empire that lasted for millions of years, keeping peace between the stars and protecting younger species. Professor Vasquez shook her head. That's impossible. We have no record of any ancient human civilization. Because your ancestors chose to forget, Guardian explained. They grew tired of the responsibility of ruling. They decided to go into what you might call evolutionary sleep. They erased their own history and returned to simple life on Earth, knowing that one day humanity would reach for the stars again. The structure around them pulsed with warm light. Guardian gestured to the walls. They left guardians like me to watch and wait. When humans returned to space and faced extinction, we would awaken to protect them. Guardian's expression grew serious. That time is now. Kim's communication equipment buzzed with urgent messages from Earth. Captain, the alien fleet is moving toward the inner planets. They're demanding an answer to their ultimatum. Captain Chen looked at Guardian. Can you really protect us from that fleet? They have thousands of ships. The Zephyrian Empire believes in strength through destruction. Guardian said. Your ancestors believed in strength through protection. I can defend humanity. But the choice must be yours. Minjun studied the glowing figure. What kind of choice? Guardian waved his hand, and the air filled with images. They saw the ancient human empire at its height. Massive cities floating in space, ships that could travel between galaxies, and humans working alongside hundreds of alien species in peace and friendship. Your ancestors were known throughout the galaxy as the Protector race, Guardian explained. They never conquered through fear. They led through wisdom and strength, used only for defense. When species fought, humans mediated peace. When the weak were threatened, humans stood as shields. Professor Vasquez was recording everything. Why did they give it all up? Power without challenge leads to stagnation. Your ancestors feared that ruling the galaxy forever would make humanity weak and lazy. So they chose to start over, to grow again from the beginning and rediscover their strength through struggle. The structure shook as something massive moved deep below them. Guardian's form flickered. The Prometheus engine is almost ready, he said. It can protect your entire solar system and more, if needed. But I must warn you. Activating it will announce to the galaxy that humanity has returned as a major power. There will be no hiding after this. Captain Chen felt the weight of the decision. What exactly will this engine do to the alien fleet? It will demonstrate that humans cannot be easily destroyed, Guardian said. The Zephyrians will learn that they have made a serious mistake. Kim looked up from her communications. Captain, the aliens are attacking the outer colonies. They're not waiting for our answer. On the screens, they watched helplessly as alien weapons destroyed human settlements on the edge of the solar system. Families that had lived on those stations for generations were dead in minutes. Minjun felt anger rise in his chest. They didn't even give us a chance to surrender. Guardian nodded grimly. The Zephyrian Empire has destroyed 12 species that they considered threats. They never negotiate. They only eliminate. Professor Vasquez looked at the readings from deep in the structure. The power levels are incredible. This thing could probably destroy their entire fleet. Yes, Guardian agreed. But that is not what your ancestors would have wanted. The Prometheus engine can do much more than destroy. It can protect, disable, and relocate threats without killing. The choice of how much force to use is yours. Captain Chen made her decision. If we activate this engine, can we protect the colonies that are left? Yes. And you can stop the Zephyrian fleet, without becoming killers like them. Minjun placed his hand on the warm metal wall. Then we do it. We wake up whatever our ancestors left for us. Guardian smiled. Then place your hands on the activation panel. The engine requires the conscious choice of human representatives to awaken fully. The 4 team members walked to a section of the wall that was covered in glowing symbols. They looked at each other, knowing they were about to change the course of human history. Together, Captain Chen said. They placed their hands on the warm metal. The structure around them exploded with light and sound. Deep below, the Prometheus engine roared to life after millions of years of waiting. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that humanity was not the helpless prey they had expected. Admiral Vextar watched the destruction of the human outer colonies with satisfaction. His ships had wiped out 3 settlements in less than an hour. The humans had not even tried to fight back. This would be easier than he thought. Admiral, his communication officer reported, "We are receiving a transmission from the planet humans called Triton." "Put it through," Vextar ordered. He expected to hear humans begging for mercy. Instead, he saw the face of a human female in military uniform. She looked calm and determined, not afraid. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Archaeological Survey," she said. "You have attacked innocent people without warning. We demand that you stop your assault immediately." Vextar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through his ship's bridge. "Humans do not make demands of the Zephyrian Empire. You will evacuate this system or join your dead colonists." "Before you continue your attacks," Captain Chen said, "you should know that we have discovered something on Triton, something your empire should be aware of." Quote, 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 "Human tricks will not save you," Vextar replied. But something in the human's voice made him curious. What could you possibly have found that would interest the Empire? On Triton, Captain Chen looked at Guardian, who nodded encouragement. "We have found evidence that humans once ruled a galactic empire, an empire that your species would remember." Vextar's confident expression faded. In the background, his officers were checking their historical databases. One of them approached the Admiral with a tablet, his face pale with worry. "Admiral," the officer whispered, "our records speak of an ancient human empire. They were called the Protector Race, but that was millions of years ago. It cannot be the same species." Guardian stepped into view of the communication screen. Admiral Vextar stepped backward in shock. Every Zephyrian knew that symbol. N4. The blue figure of the ancient human guardians. "Greetings, Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire," Guardian said. "It has been a long time since our species have spoken." Vextar's voice shook. "The Guardian protocols were destroyed long ago when the human empire fell." "We were never destroyed," Guardian corrected. "We were placed into hibernation, waiting for humanity to return to space. That time has come." The Admiral tried to regain his composure. "Even if you speak the truth, the humans of today are weak. They are not the protector race of old." Guardian gestured to the humans around him. "These 4 individuals chose to activate the Prometheus engine rather than flee from your threats. They risked their own lives to protect their people. Does that sound weak to you?" On Triton, Dr. Minjun Park was studying the data flowing from the ancient structure. The engine was reaching full power, and the readings were beyond anything human science could explain. "Guardian," he asked quietly, "what exactly is the Prometheus engine going to do?" "It will create a protective field around your solar system that cannot be penetrated by hostile forces," Guardian explained. "But more importantly, it will demonstrate to the Zephyrian Empire that humanity is once again a power they must respect." Professor Vasquez looked worried. "You're not going to destroy their fleet, are you?" "Destruction is the tool of the weak," Guardian said. "Your ancestors learned long ago that true power comes from the ability to protect, not the need to kill." Lieutenant Kim was monitoring communications from the Zephyrian fleet. "Their ships are moving into attack formation. They're preparing to bombard Earth." Guardian's expression grew serious. Admiral Vextar, you have one opportunity to withdraw your fleet peacefully. The ancient treaties between the Protector race and the galactic community are still in effect. Attacking humanity is a violation of those agreements. Vextar snarled. Ancient treaties mean nothing. The human empire is gone. These primitive descendants have no claim to protection. Then you force me to demonstrate otherwise, Guardian said sadly. The Prometheus engine deep in Triton's core reached critical energy levels. Throughout the structure, systems that had slept for millions of years awakened. The ancient machinery hummed with power that could reshape solar systems. Captain Chen felt the responsibility weighing on her shoulders. Guardian, is there no way to avoid a fight? The Zephyrians respect only strength. Guardian replied. They have destroyed 12 species because those species could not defend themselves. We must show them that humanity is not defenseless. Min Jun placed his hand on the activation console again. What do you need us to do? 4. Simply give your consent, Guardian said. The engine responds only to free human choice. It will not act without your permission. The 4 team members looked at each other. Outside, the Zephyrian fleet was preparing to destroy their home world. On the communication screen, Admiral Vextar was giving orders for the final attack. We choose to protect humanity, Captain Chen said firmly. We choose to defend the innocent, Professor Vasquez added. We choose to stand up to bullies, Lieutenant Kim declared. We choose to honor our ancestors, Dr. Min Jun Park finished. Guardian smiled with pride. Then let the galaxy remember why humanity was once called the Protector race. The Prometheus engine activated with a pulse of energy that could be felt across the solar system. Ancient technology beyond modern understanding reached out toward the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Vextar watched his instruments in growing alarm as energy readings spiked beyond his ship's ability to measure. What is happening? He demanded. His science officer's voice cracked with fear. Admiral, we are detecting energy levels that match the ancient Guardian protocols. The readings are identical to those in our historical archives. Impossible, Vextar growled. But deep down, he was beginning to realize that his empire had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not the weak prey species he had expected. They were the descendants of the galaxy's former peacekeepers, and they had just awakened the tools their ancestors had left behind. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn why the ancient human empire had been called the most powerful force in galactic history. But they were also about to learn why that empire had been respected rather than feared. The Prometheus engine was about to show them the difference between destruction and protection. And Admiral Vextar was about to understand why attacking humanity had been the greatest mistake of his military career. The moment the Prometheus engine reached full activation, space around Triton exploded with brilliant blue light. Energy waves rippled outward from the ancient structure, moving faster than anything the humans had ever seen. Dr. Min Jun Park watched the readings on his instruments and felt his mind struggling to understand what he was seeing. The power output is impossible. This thing is generating more energy than our entire civilization uses in a year. Guardian's glowing form stood calmly in the center of the chaos. The engine is merely warming up, Dr. Park. You are about to see what your ancestors built to protect humanity. The energy waves reached the Zephyrian fleet in seconds. Admiral Vextar watched his ship's shields activate automatically as unknown forces washed over his vessels. But instead of the devastating attack he expected, something much more disturbing happened. Nothing. His weapons were still functional. His shields were still strong. His ships were completely undamaged. But every single one of his vessels had stopped moving. Report, he shouted to his bridge crew. Admiral, our engines are offline. His engineering officer called out in panic. Not damaged, just completely shut down. It's as if something is preventing them from working. Weapon status? All weapon systems are functional but unresponsive. They will not fire. Vextar stared at his screens in growing horror. His massive fleet of thousands of ships was floating helplessly in space. They were not destroyed, not damaged, simply powerless to do anything. Guardian's voice came through every communication system in the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Vextar, you now understand the first level of the Prometheus engine's defensive capabilities. Your ships have been isolated from their power sources by a field that disrupts the specific energy patterns your technology uses. You cannot move, but you are in no danger. On Triton, Captain Chen watched the display screens showing the alien fleet. They're just sitting there. What did you do to them? I demonstrated the difference between destruction and control, Guardian explained. Your ancestors learned long ago that killing your enemies only creates more enemies. It is better to show them that resistance is pointless. Lieutenant Kim was monitoring communications from the Zephyrian ships. They're sending distress signals to their empire. They're calling for reinforcements. Guardian nodded. Let them. The other engine sites are awakening as we speak. Professor Vasquez looked up from her instruments. Other engine sites? Did you think the Prometheus engine was the only Guardian your ancestors left behind? Guardian smiled. There are similar installations throughout human space. They have been dormant, waiting for the signal that humanity needed protection. Across human space, ancient structures buried on dozens of worlds began to stir. On Mars, construction crews working on the polar mining stations reported strange energy readings from deep underground. On Europa, scientists detected massive power surges from beneath the ice. On every world where humans had built colonies, the Guardians were awakening. Admiral Vextar tried desperately to regain control of his fleet. Send a message to the human archaeological team. Tell them we are prepared to negotiate. Guardian appeared on the bridge of Vextar's flagship, his blue form translucent but clearly visible to the stunned Zephyrian crew. Admiral, your empire has spent the last 1,000 years conquering weaker species through fear and violence. You destroyed 12 civilizations because you were afraid of potential threats. But you made one critical error. What error? Vextar demanded, though he already feared the answer. You attacked the descendants of the species that once kept peace in this galaxy. Humanity did not fall to conquest, Admiral. We chose to step back and let younger species grow. But we never forgot how to protect ourselves and others. The Guardian gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the Zephyrian bridge. They showed the ancient human empire at its peak. Vast space stations that could house billions. Ships that dwarfed entire Zephyrian fleets. Technology that could move planets and reshape solar systems. The Protector race was not called that because we were peaceful, Guardian continued. We were called that because we had the power to enforce peace. Your empire exists only because humanity allowed it to exist. Vextar watched the displays with growing despair. His intelligence officers had told him that the ancient human empire was just a myth, a story told by primitive species. But the evidence was floating right in front of him. What do you want? He asked finally. What we have always wanted, Guardian replied. Peace. Your fleet will withdraw from human space immediately. You will return to your own territory, and you will not threaten humanity again. And if we refuse? Guardian's expression remained calm, but his next words sent chills through every Zephyrian on the bridge. Then I will demonstrate the second level of the Prometheus engine's capabilities. The space around the Zephyrian fleet began to shimmer. Suddenly, every single ship found itself moved. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply relocated to the outer edge of the solar system in the blink of an eye. Vextar stared at his navigation displays in shock. His entire fleet had been moved billions of kilometers in an instant, as easily as a child moving toys on a table. How? He whispered. Spatial manipulation technology, Guardian explained patiently. Your ancestors probably called it magic. We call it Tuesday. On Triton, the human team watched in amazement as the alien fleet was effortlessly relocated to safe distance from their worlds. Guardian, Dr. Minjun asked. Could the engine have destroyed them instead? Of course, Guardian replied. The third level of defensive response would have removed the threat permanently. But that would make us no better than the Zephyrians themselves. Captain Chen felt a mix of awe and responsibility. What happens now? Now humanity must choose what kind of species you wish to become, Guardian said. You have the power to protect yourselves. The question is whether you will use that power to help others, as your ancestors did. Lieutenant Kim's communication equipment was buzzing with messages from across human space. Captain, I'm getting reports from every human colony. Ancient structures are activating everywhere. The entire solar system is now protected by some kind of energy field. Professor Vasquez was recording everything for history. Guardian, will you teach us about our past? About the technology our ancestors left behind? That knowledge will be revealed gradually, as humanity proves ready for it. Guardian said, Power without wisdom is dangerous. Your ancestors learned that lesson well. Admiral Vextar's fleet hung helplessly at the edge of the solar system. Their weapons useless, and their engines still disabled. The Admiral himself was beginning to understand the magnitude of his mistake. He had not attacked a primitive species ripe for conquest. He had attacked the children of the galaxy's former rulers, and he had awakened sleeping giants that his empire was powerless to fight. The Prometheus engine pulsed with gentle light, its ancient systems fully operational after millions of years. Humanity was no longer defenseless prey. They were once again the protector race, whether they fully understood it or not. And across the galaxy, other species were beginning to detect the energy signatures they remembered from ancient legends. The humans were back. 3 days after the Prometheus engine's activation, the galaxy was buzzing with activity. Ancient communication networks that had been silent for millions of years were suddenly active again, carrying messages between species that had long forgotten how to contact each other. Dr. Minjun Park stood in the command center they had built around the Guardian structure on Triton. The ancient engine was now fully integrated with human technology, creating a bridge between the past and present that amazed everyone who saw it. Guardian, he said to the blue figure that had become humanity's link to their forgotten history. We're receiving diplomatic messages from dozens of species. They all want to talk to us. Guardian nodded with satisfaction. Word has spread that the protector race has returned to the galactic community. Many species remember the ancient treaties and agreements that kept peace for so long. Captain Chen was coordinating with human governments across the solar system. The sudden revelation that humanity had once ruled a galactic empire was causing quite a stir on Earth. Some people were excited, others were worried. And politicians were arguing about what it all meant. The World Council wants to know what our intentions are, she reported. Are we going to try to rebuild the old empire? That choice is not mine to make, Guardian replied. But I can tell you what your ancestors learned. Empire for its own sake leads to corruption. Power should be used to protect and help others, not to control them. Lieutenant Kim looked up from her communication station. Guardian, Admiral Vextar is requesting permission to speak with us again. His fleet is still disabled at the edge of the system. Put him through, Guardian said. The Zephyrian admiral appeared on their screens, but he looked very different from the arrogant commander who had threatened to destroy humanity just days before. His posture was humble, and there was respect in his voice. Guardian of the protector race, he began formally. I speak for the Zephyrian Empire. We acknowledge that we made a serious error in attacking humanity. We request permission to withdraw our forces and return to our own space. Guardian studied the alien commander for a long moment. Admiral, why did your empire attack humanity in the first place? Vextar looked uncomfortable. We believed humans were expanding too quickly and adapting too easily. Our analysis suggested that given enough time, humanity would become a threat to our dominance of this region. And now? Guardian asked. Now we understand that humanity was already the dominant force in this galaxy, long before our empire even existed. We have no right to challenge your authority. Professor Vasquez, who had been listening to the conversation, stepped forward. Guardian, what were the ancient treaties like? How did the old human empire interact with other species? Guardian waved his hand, and holographic images filled the room. They showed scenes from the ancient past. Humans working alongside many different alien species on vast construction projects. Human mediators settling disputes between warring worlds. And human protectors standing guard over younger civilizations. The protector race never ruled through fear or conquest, Guardian explained. We led by example and defended those who could not defend themselves. When species disagreed, we mediated. When the strong threatened the weak, we intervened. Admiral Vex Tar watched the images with growing understanding. These scenes. They match the oldest legends in our historical databases. Stories we thought were myths about the golden age of galactic peace. They were not myths, Guardian said simply. Dr. Min Jun had been studying the data flowing from the Prometheus engine and the other awakened Guardian sites. Guardian, the network is showing me something interesting. There are other species out there that are requesting help. Some of them are being threatened by aggressive neighbors. Guardian turned to the human team. And there is your first choice as the new generation of the protector race. Will you help them? Captain Chen felt the weight of decision. What kind of help are they asking for? The Cathara Republic is being invaded by the Molten Claws Empire, Guardian reported. The Catharans are peaceful traders who have no military. They sent a distress signal on the old emergency frequencies. Quote, Lieutenant Kim checked her star charts. The Cathara system is about 50 light-years from here. 1. The old human empire would have responded immediately, Guardian said. But the choice is yours. Professor Vasquez looked thoughtful. If we help them, are we committing humanity to being galactic peacekeepers again? You are committing humanity to doing what is right, Guardian replied. Whether that makes you peacekeepers depends on how often you encounter situations that require intervention. Dr. Minjun made his decision first. I think we should help them. If we have the power to stop innocent people from being hurt, don't we have a responsibility to use it? Captain Chen nodded slowly. I agree. But how would we help them? Our fleet is nowhere near as advanced as the Guardian technology. Guardian smiled. The Prometheus engine can do more than just defend this solar system. It can project protective fields across interstellar distances. We can shield the Cathara Republic without sending a single human ship. Admiral Vextar spoke up unexpectedly. Guardian, if you protect the Catharans from the Molten Claws, you will be announcing to the entire galaxy that humanity has truly returned as a major power. Is that a threat, Admiral? Captain Chen asked sharply. No, Vextar replied quickly. It is a warning to be careful. There are species in this galaxy that fought against the ancient human empire. They remember being forced to follow human rules. They will not welcome your return. Guardian's expression grew serious. Admiral Vex Tar speaks the truth. Not every species was happy with human leadership, even when that leadership was just and fair. Some preferred the chaos of constant warfare to the peace we imposed. Dr. Minjun looked at his colleagues. So what do we do? Let innocent people suffer because we're afraid of making enemies? We do what our ancestors would have done, Captain Chen said firmly. We protect the innocent and face the consequences. Guardian began activating systems in the Prometheus engine. Very well. I am extending protective fields to the Cathara Republic. The Molten Claws invasion fleet will find their weapons mysteriously ineffective. Across the galaxy, alien species monitored the energy signatures that suddenly appeared around the Cathara system. The protective fields were unmistakable. They matched the ancient Guardian protocols exactly. Within hours, the Molten Claws fleet retreated in confusion, their weapons unable to function properly. The Ketharan Republic sent grateful messages to Earth, thanking the humans for saving their civilization. But Guardian was right about the consequences. On a dozen worlds, species that had opposed the ancient human empire began preparing for war. They remembered the old days when humans had forced peace on a galaxy that sometimes preferred conflict. Lieutenant Kim monitored the communications traffic as news of humanity's return spread. Guardian, it looks like some species are forming alliances against us. Guardian nodded calmly. This was expected. Your ancestors faced the same challenges when they first took on the role of protectors. Not everyone wants peace. What did they do about it? Professor Vasquez asked. They proved that protecting the innocent was more important than being popular. Guardian replied. And, eventually, even their enemies came to respect the stability that human protection provided. Dr. Minjun Park looked out at the stars, knowing that humanity was about to face challenges their modern civilization had never imagined. But they had tools their ancestors had left behind, and they had chosen to use those tools for good. The galaxy was about to learn that the protector race had not only returned, but had retained the moral principles that had made them great in the first place. Some species would welcome them, others would fight them, but all would respect them. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human responsibility had begun again.